dog came to the program. It's 9 years old. Just like any dog that was going through these types of issues, what we'd like to see as an end result on the e-collar, because that's what people are buying from us, is an e-collar program. So what we tell them is like, first thing they need to know is when the e-collar's off, so isn't our program. So they know that, so they understand that. Second thing is, for us as a trainer, there's two things that we're going to make sure that we need the dog to do, no matter who's holding the remote, no matter what. It's just part of the system. We need them to understand if they make an error and break a rule or break a command, that if they feel a correction on the e-collar, that they go back to that command, like the place command, right? So they default back to what they were doing. This is important. And then the second important thing is if they start to feel a correction on the e-collar, they know that it's addressing their mind as well. So you start to see them start to check in with their emotional state and relax. And they might even put their head down or turn away from the event. If we have this, if we have it as simple as going, we see the mistake the dog's making, we go, and the dog fixes it, we're done. We're done.
Well, that's kind of where I'm, like, I don't know, did you guys get those videos last night?
We just got a video that will be going, you seen that?
You saw it.
I seen the one that you just showed me.
Yeah.
Yes. I seen that one, which we'll get to, because I thought there were state of mind issues with that. That's because, and I will explain what I mean by that. Sorry, I dropped my pen cap. But before I get there, just want to make sure that it's clear. That's the expectation. The expectation isn't that the dog is now fixed and has none of these issues, of course. We can make what we can make as far as progress and how the dog feels about the situation with people coming in and out of the door. But the truth is when he gets home and it's that door again, he's gonna go back to his old association to that door. But the e-collar and all the experiences that you've captured on it when you give him some stimulation is going to inform him what he should be doing now. That it's going to say you're making a mistake and now you need to relax and disengage. I'm gonna sneeze at one point or another. I feel like
You can't spray me anyway.
it's just dust. I cleaned the vacuum cleaner, it's in the air. But so we just want to make sure that if he makes that mistake, and I don't know if you're doing the go home at his house, or if we don't do that usually, but we would like. What I would do if this is my client is I would actually have an exercise for them to do as soon as they get home, so that it's tackled, and it would be the place command setup thing that we talked about, where they put the first thing they do with the dog is they put him on place, they put him on a tie back so that he can make the mistake but can't get far, and then they go ahead and do the trigger on the door, and they go to the door, they let the dog make the mistake, they give that nice firm correction, and because of the experience that he's had 3 weeks with you, he gets back on the bed and he lays down and he shuts up. And then
I don't want him to go home and then just wait till someone comes to the door.
That's right. So we got to stay on top of it. We'll explain to them in their go home, hey, listen, your dog, this is where we got him. We know he can do it, but there's also an old association to the response at your house, and this is how we're going to clean it up. And not only is this going to clean up his behavior around this door, but it's also going to, whoever's doing the correcting, it's going to give them a healthy authority type presence in the house, hopefully. So we tell them to do this exercise. You put them on place, you have the tie back on, and you have somebody come to the door. He makes a mistake, you correct, however you direct them, put them back on place, let the air settle, let the dust settle, and then do it again. And then we do this at least once a day. As soon as we put him on place for the day, let's say, like, oh, he's going to be on place for a few hours, we will do that. Correct. Well, if he makes a mistake, and then let him sit there for an hour or two. You know what I mean? And we do this until it's no longer a problem. That's their homework, because our program is a 3-month program. Even if we have the dog for 2 weeks, right? So they go home. Nobody does it for 3 months, but I mean, some do. It's very rare. 1% of people might. But we tell them 3 months. We hope that we get a month out of it, you know? And so, and then also, you know, our game plan, I'm sure you know all this, and I'm getting into the stuff that you already know, but we're going to be doing heavy structure for this guy. And he's actually probably going to appreciate it being 9. So it's going to be like constant command unless they're doing something with him directly. Directly.
Yeah. That's what I've been telling them too.
And then, you know, And then you put him back on a command, or you put him away in the kennel. And so, and it's not a forever thing, but that is until he's changed the way he feels and views the house, and he's starting to respect the rules, which I'm sure he will. And so this is our job as the trainers. We want to make sure that we have taught the dog all the commands, check. We taught him the system is what I'm calling it, but basically what it means is like he understands what to do with e-collar stim based on the situation, right? So if you're saying down and he's feeling stim, he knows that means to down, right? Or if he's barking, he knows that means to shut up and go away. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing, like he's really bang on with his commands. Like he's a smart little guy who's very actually easy to work with.
Yes.
You know, like
so,
he picks things up very quick.
So that's good as far as the training of the commands. So then you don't have to struggle, because a 9-year-old who doesn't know the commands and who's kind of not participating and doesn't give a shit, it can just be a hassle just teaching the commands.
Exactly.
But we got that, so that's good. The other thing, the big game changer is going to be, can he turn off completely on command?
Right.
Like, so there's a knock on the door, and it's ears up, eyes, wrong.
Right.
Tap, looks away, has nothing to do with me.
Yes.
Right? Looks back, tap. This is what we're doing during the training process, so that when he goes home, when he gets a correction, he disengages and relaxes and lets the situation happen without feeling involved. We want him to know that when that door knocks, you're not to only not be involved, you're to actively try to not be involved. You know? And so there's different ways we can have that conversation. It doesn't have to just be the door. We can have them, one of our best ways to have this conversation with a dog is using the double down that we do, where we teach the dog down, and then we teach them to double down if we say down again, if they're already in a down. And this gives owners a way to tell whether or not the dog's breaking the rule. Because it's very hard for them to say ears up, well, what's his energy level and is it appropriate? If the head's down, if we're in a situation where we want to tell the dog, hey, this is happening and I don't want you to have anything to do with it, we tell the dog to double down, and that gives the conversation to the dog, because of the way we trained it, which I'll tell you how, that this situation has nothing to do with you, and if you try to participate, you'll be corrected. That's what the double down means to them. That's how we train it. And how we train it is we teach the double down first, to put the chin on the ground, and then we'll throw a ball across the room. And if they go like this, it's a tag on the e-collar until they put their head back down. So the ball is able to go across, and then they ignore it. The food goes across, they ignore it. The dogs are playing, they ignore it. Now we're out in public, and they're got to double down, and they're ignoring things. Now we're at the door, and they start to make a mistake, tag, they ignore. This is going to make success at home, right? Because even if the owner doesn't know what they're doing, they can go, and it solves, right?
So like when he's on place in the house, I've done lots of I'll throw toys by him, and I actually run my other dogs by him. Like yesterday, my 2 dogs were playing right beside the cot, and I kept him in a double down. He had a little bit of anxiousness about that. Like you could kind of see him shaking, because he was uncertain about them playing by him. But he stayed in a double down, so he wasn't whining or anything.
That's it. And then the more you do it, the more he'll get used to it. So the shaking is a sign of heading in the right direction. And that it should go away while he's with you. If not, ideally we have it going away while they're with us, and it comes back when they go home. But you want to give them experience of overcoming that. So if you see it, okay, the dogs get them to shake, then we'll use that particular scenario until, it's going to happen. Eventually you're going to set him out there, and he's just going to go. You really want him to make a mistake, though. You don't want to keep him successful too much, especially towards the end or in the middle. You want to push and push and push to the point where you put him in a situation that he's never going to be in that much of a stimulus in the house. Like dogs going crazy. The way that we proof things sometimes for dogs like this that probably isn't on camera, it's just intense. Like they would never have that much pressure put on them in reality, and you can't fucking move. Right? And so we're setting them up so that if somebody, just a casual person, comes and knocks on the door, it's like, well, that's no big deal, because I just had bowls flying by me, dogs running, people screaming, it's nuts in here right now, and I'm over here shaking until a few days later where I'm just doing nothing, I'm just relaxed. Once we get it to that point, we feel confident to send them home with the game plan, to let them know your dog will shake. If he's shaking, you're headed in the right direction because he's holding himself back.
Right.
Give it a month, and that will go away, and everything will be balanced out. So time is part of the tool that we're using going home. They have to be consistent, and that's you doing your job, and you did your job, and you did high quality training that you gave to the owner. Now, if they follow through, they'll have those results. If they don't, then they won't, and that's just how it goes. You know, if it doesn't work out, you might just, you know, if they don't follow through and it's not working out, they might come and say, hey, we let it slip a little bit, and we need some help getting back on track, and we will help people get back on track.
Of course, yeah.
But we will cut off eventually if they're not doing what we suggest, but still complaining. Then we say, well, listen, you're not doing what we suggest. So it will work with him. He's not going to get on place. Even if he lets a little whine, it's like no big deal.
Yeah,
no big deal, right?
Now he's not shaking. Like I don't know if you noticed in the videos last night, he was not shaking anymore, but he still has a little whining. But the whining before was like.
Yeah, you're headed there in the right direction. As far as a lot of places would call that finished, but well, listen, the truth is if you stopped right now, and you gave them the rules that we just talked about, they're going to be thrilled, and the likelihood of that happening again is very low. Like, you solved the problem for them. You know, you gave them what they need to live a peaceful life with him. And so that's good, because just the place command alone and him respecting that, even if his mind's a little off while he's on there, he's not going out to the door, you know?
And that's one thing, like like the videos I sent you didn't show place, but I've done lots and lots of repetitions of, you know, and I never even had him tied back. And the worst thing he did was stand up, and then I put him into the double down, and then you just shake and it's like,
Yeah. We need more of that. We need more of those situations as much as possible before he goes home. And you can use downs off the place bed as well, because a down off the place bed is harder for them, it seems to be, a lot of dogs. So doing that with whatever we can find, those things that get them to shake are what we're trying to do right now. And so
the doorbell, like the doorbell ringing, and then the knock is obviously the trigger for them.
Yeah.
So I did like repetition of that. Like, we don't have a doorbell on our trailer, but I just use my phone like app. Like I did.
Do they have one? Does the owner have a doorbell, or is it just a knock?
Yeah, they do. So that's why I did the doorbell thing. And so I've done so many repetitions of that. Just ding dong, because then all of a sudden the head comes up, and I just.
Yes, that's good. That's very good.
And should you say no, like when the head comes up, say no?
So in the beginning we do, but we like it to be at the end, towards the end of training, we like to be able to just tap, and the dog knows what to do based on the situation. If you got it to that point where basically we proof every command by silently correcting and making sure the dog makes the good choice. So we put a lot of responsibility on the dog's understanding first, because we know the owner's going to fuck up. You know, so even if they fuck up, basically we want to know the dog will learn through context. If I'm on the place and my head's up and I feel the stim, it means to do this. It doesn't mean to recall. It means to, you know what I mean? And they get it. They totally get it.
A lot without saying anything.
Perfect. And that's when you know you're in that beautiful spot where anybody can grab the remote and get it. You know, and that makes it so much more successful going home. And so there's a couple things I want to say. I want to make sure I don't miss them. State of mind, yes, but I want to get, there was something else just now about the place command. Oh, yes. Okay, so another thing you could do, if you had the sound of their doorbell, which, you know, you probably don't.
I asked him to send it to me.
It would be useful. It would be useful. And what I would do is start setting him up in very organic ways, where he's out of command, you're just hanging out, and then all of a sudden, ding dong, and then he has to we basically want that sound to mean go to place. So instead of saying, so it goes ding dong, 1 Mississippi, place, 1 Mississippi, e-collar stim until he gets on place, turn it off. And then we do it back until it goes ding dong and he runs to place, right? So basically that can just give you one more layer. If you're running out of things to do, that can give you just one more layer of, and not just the doorbell. Anybody coming to the door at all means you go to place. Right? That's what you do when people come to the door. You go to place. And if you want to, use a reward there or whatever, you can. But the thing is, we need him to understand that your role is to go to place. That'll be the easiest for him, because it's easy to understand, and the easiest for them to say, when people come to the door, you either put him on place before you answer, or hopefully he starts running to that bed. And so
you really need to follow and tie back.
A couple times,
Yes.
like when I would correct him at the door, he would go to place. So
that's good. Good.
So that'll be easy.
That's good. That's really good. If you correct and he runs to place, we're in a good place.
Yeah.
Now,
Make sure they follow with the tie back.
Yes, they're gonna need to tie back at home.
At least
for a couple weeks until they know that. Basically, if he gets off the bed, though, we want to make sure there's a good recall. Come right back to the bed to solve that problem. But what I was gonna say to you, you correct him, he goes back to the place. But there's another thing I wanted to say that was I haven't done this type of work in a little while, but God, what was it? This isn't coming off your time. Don't worry.
No.
I'm just thinking real quick.
Is everything making sense?
Yeah, it is. And I feel like actually just listening to everything you're saying, I feel like
you're in the right direction.
Right track.
Yeah,
so
you are.
Like I'm still
you
like
are.
a new trainer, so.
Oh, yeah.
You're headed. You're very much in the right direction.
And if you can make a video, even if you don't feel comfortable putting it out on Facebook,
I got it.
make a video. And send it to the owner. Hey, these are the steps. This is me role playing and sending your dog to place. This is exactly what I want you to do at home.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I've sent them everything.
Good.
So.
Of course. I got another one. These are just little things you can do to try to keep it more successful going home. It doesn't mean you have to do them. We don't do them all the time, but I've done them in the past. Another thing you can do is next time you have a dog like this, or even if you have him for a little bit longer, you use his place bed that he's going to be on going home. So like that, whatever they use as a place bed at home, you're using in your training program. So when he hears knock knock, he goes and finds that bed. So when he goes home, he's going to find the same bed, the same smell, the same sight and everything. It just makes it a little cleaner, just a little bit easier for the dog. They know they're looking for that bed, you know?
Yeah, well, I've been using a place cot, and I actually ordered one for them, and it's sitting at the post office right now.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
I actually just talked to them last night, and the dog's going to stay for an additional week. Like, he's supposed to go home tomorrow. So,
Perfect.
Yeah. So.
Even better. So we got to the point where if we tap silently on the remote, another thing to test is, let's say, organically again. This is where you want to set up these I'm getting sick of this stuff coming up. Sorry, messages on the phone. We're going to want to be organic and say, get him out of training mind, and then set up somebody's at the door. Obviously, we're going to correct, like you've done this, right? We want to see what happens if you don't say anything and you just go tag for like hovering at the door, participating somehow, even if it's a low number. Start with like, hey, that's an error, and if he's not listening, go up. What does he do without any human direction?
Okay.
Does he run to that place bed? Because if he does, you're in a good fucking place going home. You're in a really good place going home.
The second video I sent you guys where he would start to go to the door. Well, actually, the second video, I don't think he ever went to the door. He stopped at the kitchen, and then he laid down.
Nice.
And I just did something else, and then I yelled to my husband, okay, and then he knocked, and then I went to the door, and he stopped in the living room, and he went down, and then he doubled down, and that whole video, I never...
He's getting it. He's getting it then. Yeah. He's getting it. I mean, he's a little, like, I get this too with them, like, he's like, okay, I need to, like, you know, hopefully the conversation with the downs are, the only thing I would like is the down to be really just his attempt to try to disengage. There's a difference between downing like this and watching, like excited. That's not the one. That's not the one we want. We want the I'm not paying attention to this, and I want to show you that I'm not trying to break the rules. I'm trying to be respectful. If we see that look in their eyes and doing it, it's like, oh, it's done.
Like
it's already done.
Like, sometimes he'll just go down like this, and he'll look like this, but then sometimes he'll kind of like avoid it.
Yeah. So you got it. You got it. So then you've pretty much. I mean, you can. Beat the dead horse. That's a bad analogy to use if you're working in the animal field, but you can keep doing it. But it sounds like you've already got the job done there with that.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like the worst of it's over anyway.
Yeah. So the next thing was, and if I was like, if you had all the resources in the room, you would snap your fingers and you'd be in their living room now, and you would do it there. That would give them ultimate success, is having at least one session in their living room with their door, with you there. Setting it up so that he translates and then you leave. And I don't know if that's in the realm of possibility. It's not a necessity necessarily, but it definitely is another one of those things where it's like, if you ever have a really bad dog, these are the things we do. We do go to their house. We do that. because we want to make sure that there's no error, because it can be bad. For some of these dogs are really bad.
And you don't know the layout of their house either.
You don't know the layout. You don't know how they're gonna go. Their mind's gonna go wing as soon as they hear that noise. And with you being there, and you've already set it up, you talk to them. Everybody knows what to do. The dog makes a mistake, boom, and then you clean it up, and then you try to replicate it until the dog's giving you that respectfulness. But the idea is you have it so that you're operating the remote, but the owner's the one saying no and directing, so that the timing's right on the correction, but the dog thinks the owner's doing it. So therefore, I have to listen to mom and dad now too, not just the trainer. And then that's where you'll see it start to change, and then they should be contacting you with some very good news. You know, like things are going really good. He's making good choices. By the looks of him, he looks like he's trying to do the right thing. So that's good. That's good. He doesn't look like he's trying to be defiant or anything or manipulative from what I've seen. So that's good. Now, are we up to pace as far as understanding what I've said so far?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good. The only other thing is in the videos. I don't know the situation of the video or what it was, but during a situation where a real life situation, like somebody coming to the door or anything where you need to manage the dog's movements using the training, we don't want him to look like it's a game, right? Yeah. So more organic setups that aren't, they're training, but he doesn't know it's training. It's just like this thing happens, and I might direct you and say, place or down or something like that, like casually. And what we don't want to see is just like, it's like very playful, down, sit, place, right? We want to see him taking it seriously. So just make sure that he's able to do that. He's able, because I understand that sometimes when you're doing drills, the dogs having a good time sometimes because they understand that, like, I get this and it's fun. And so, and that's fine. But we just want to make sure that the thing that can happen, it's not going to happen with this guy, I can tell after talking with you. But what can happen is you go to use it in real life and they're very bouncy with it and they're like sitting and it's like, that's not going to go very far in real life because now their mind's in that excitable place. So just make sure you set up some of these organic situations where there's like a lot of space in between the reps. That you're just chilling for 15 minutes and all of a sudden, bing, 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 you got a situation on your hands, you deal with it. And then maybe there's another 10 minutes of silence and then something else happens. Living with him kind of thing. If that feels good, everything feels good, I would say if everything feels tight to you as far as commands, that it's time to start transferring it over to the owners and sending him home and seeing how he does. It sounds like he's going to do very well.
So now, like they said, when people leave to go home, and they put the jackets on, the jacket sets them up as well. So now, would something to do be is like when people are getting back to leave, send them to place or make sure he's on place.
So be proactive with them. You know, with us, we like to let him make the mistake and go ding, right? And then see what he does. That's just to give us one more layer of him saying, I don't know if I even want to do that. For them to be proactive, make sure he's on place during that situation, you know? But we want to start strict, like really strict on him going home. So the rule would be like, while guests are over, he's just on place. Because he needs to learn, even if it's somebody that he likes, he needs to learn that it's not for him. Right? And if you do, eventually down the road, you let him off, he does his visit, you feel satisfied, he feels satisfied, you send him back to place. Now this is an opportunity where he might be like, no. And then you just recall, stand behind the bed and say, come, and that will clean that up because then he knows, especially if you're using tone for the recall, lickety split, he'll be right back to the bed and then it'll be over. So absolutely have them use place when people come over and to start with not even letting him off, which is the hard part for people.
Yeah, and I also don't want them to understand too that don't let him visit until he's absolutely almost asleep on that cot. Like, exactly. And so getting rewarded for
he's in training, so it's a type ship for the next 3 months going home. So use it to teach him that because the whole thing is he thinks he's allowed to be involved in every activity that happens. And they're changing that dynamic and they're saying, you're actually not. Everything that happens is for us. And if we invite you, you are. But as soon as we say go away, go away. And if you argue at any point, Once he learns that, they got control, they're happy, and everybody's good. So
Another thing they were doing too is they were putting that bully sticks on their floor, not putting them on the floor, but not directly giving it to them. But when somebody would come to the door, they said they'd go grab one and just chew on it, like I guess.
I see, because it's just built up so much around this activity. Like you got a 9-year-old dog that probably doesn't do much throughout the day, and then somebody's here. Yes! And it's like, I don't know what to do about this or what this means, but shit, something's happening. And they're like biting on, redirecting that energy. That just shows that there's just so much, just built up around this activity.
And
so
he's played on them a bit too. Like they said, if they take him for a walk and it's cold out, he puts the brakes on.
Yeah.
As soon as I turn around and go home, he's do.
Oh yeah. He knows what he's doing. He's trained his humans, right? So he needs to learn to have the response. They need to learn. This is the thing you need to make sure they do, because now you've done all this wonderful work, but the problem is you're handing it to a couple of full-grown apes, and you're like, okay, hit the button, and it's like, we're gonna make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
We're just sacks So basically, they need to learn to see when his mind starts to go to the bad place, right? So if he's calm, they need to start to identify even the littlest bit of arousal in those situations needs to be corrected. So that's why we got to teach the double down, because this is what makes it easy for them. Right. It's like he's on place, there's gas, he's in a double down. If he's not in a double down, he gets corrected. But you also teach them that when the ears go up, prolonged, he's looking intently, they can just do a low number silent. They don't have to say anything, tap to remind him. To stop him from climbing the arousal scale. Because if they think of it as a scale, by the time he hits 8 or 9, he's on that bone. He's like, but the thing is, the reason why he goes so quickly is because he's already living in that place anyway. He's probably always at like a 5, just ready to go. And then a knock on the door and he's like, 10, right? So that we want to keep him at 0 when he's on the place bed, right?
Well, I've been, all this week, he's been on the place cot all day.
Good,
Like,
he's ready to roll.
My dogs, and my dogs don't react to the door. Like, if they hear somebody drive in, they'll let out a whoop. I'm okay with that.
Same.
Don't react to the door like him. And a lot of times I'll just be sitting here and he'll just kind of lift his head and look around and just one tap and just right down.
You got it. You already headed in the right direction. A couple things that we do like midway through, or when they start to learn and become good at the double down, is getting them in a situation where they're so distracted that they don't listen to the initial, so that they have to get a full-blown bam correction. And the reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that they know that even when you get a heavy one, to do this, not to go and run off the bed and so it's like you set up such a situation. This is how you justify it. That like they hear the small one, but they're like, but I'm really interested in what's going on over there. It gives you an opportunity to say, this is what happens. And then if you need to direct them into calm, then you do. And so these are just little things we do so to make sure that it doesn't fall apart when they go home. The dog understands that even the heavier correction means to calm down. And so that's why we go from low distractions to heavier distractions. So eventually we can and we look for that opportunity to hit a little bit of a heavier, more uncomfortable correction and make sure that still results in calmness, right? So, which I'm sure at this point with the amount of reps that you've done, it will. So I think that you've done everything that I can think of that I would be doing. And I told you everything as far as like little kind of secrets that I would do. But you've got the main thing, which is he feels the sting, he relaxes. That is the main, if you didn't have that, then that would be the big thing I'd be harping on. But because you have that, I just feel like you're already set up for success. So,
But what about when he's doing the whining? Like I can notice it's like depleting, like it's way less than it was before. Good. Just keep ignoring that, like long as
so basically, it's like the way that I do it is if so let's say he's whining a little bit for whatever reason, right? He's just I might start, if this is like early on me starting to correct whining, I would definitely mark with a verbal no. If it was early on, I'd say no, and I'd give a little tap, see what happens. He might whimper out, and that's fine. But if he comes back and he's just like, I might not correct. But as soon as he starts getting like, bang, marble it down. So if he starts to elevate with it and starts to do it for a prolonged time, then we're just gonna go on and interrupt it. And once you get to the point where you're doing it silent, which it sounds like you're at, you can start with something low, but then if he whines past that, don't chase him, go to something very firm. And that's how you stop that. So it's like whine, 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 mild correction, whine, 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 very firm. Like 75.
I had the neighbor's kids come to the door the one day and he lost his shit then. And he just like, I put him in a down and then put him in a double down and he stayed in a double down, but he was just like,
Yeah,
like that. I corrected at a higher level and then it seemed like it just kind of blew his mind, like made him kind of.
That. So that situation, we would have hoped that he already had full knowledge of it. So we have to teach him. I guess that's kind of what I was trying to say. We need to teach him how to respond to a high level correction when whining. You know, so we start with little distractions, like just enough. You learn to control the distractions to work. You get really good at manipulating situations.
Yeah, I think I corrected the running to the door, like I corrected
which is good.
Right off the bat, and then I think I just started adding everything in too quick. So that's why I stepped back a bit.
We all do it. I do too, you know, and some dogs can handle it. Some dogs figure it out like.
Knock on my door now, and we'll get him over it. And I'm like, that's too much for him.
You taught him to not get out of the command, which is huge. And then the next one, if you want to bring it like really good, you want to get that mind. So you start that conversation, same conversation. The conversation is whining, e-collar sensation, stop whining. Same conversation, just toned down, right? So start with something small that makes him whine a little bit. And then correct that. Okay, he understands when he whines a little bit to stop whining. Cool. Now we got something that's a little more tempting where he feels that, but he's still whining because it's like super exciting. But it's not quite people at the door. Maybe it's like a dinner plate on the floor or something. I don't know the dog, but something that I think is just going to be mildly. You got to find something. Even if it's somebody at the door, like your kid, if you have a kid or somebody that you can control, a situation where you could kind of like stop the stimulus and then, okay, knock on the door again. That way we can start teaching him to how to take the correction. And one of the things I use is a slip lead, actually. Because with these big corrections, if he's really whining, I'll say no and then go with something heavy. And as soon as I give that heavy one, they're generally, they start to go, wow, right? So the slip lead just comes up just like that. And it's really high on the neck, so it just takes the air and just starts to, they don't know what to do with it at first. They go, oh. And then they start to relax, and then you let it go. And it teaches, you're basically saying when you feel this sensation, if you relax, everything will go away. So you teach them that after a correction, relax. And what you get after, sometimes that little conversation can be a mess. Sometimes they go, ah, because they feel the slip lead and everything. They don't know what the fuck's going on. But we don't let them down until they relax. You'll see it in their body. They'll do this, and then they'll kind of start to relax, and you let them down. And then after you repeat that, they learn to relax. And what you should get.
I think it's very dramatic. I haven't even really corrected him anything over. Like the highest I've corrected is like.
Listen, this is a very hard. What I've learned after being around a lot of different trainers is this particular thing that I'm talking about is that missing link to bring that dog to the next level as far as like really getting their mind really good. But it's very hard to teach and it's very hard to do. It takes really just experimenting with it and doing it and understanding the basics of the concepts. But a lot of people that I meet that come in here, they don't ever go to that level with their dogs. But we go with every dog. Even the good dogs go through it because they need to learn what to do when they feel heavier corrections. So we need to justify those corrections by putting a distraction out and making sure that after they've learned the system, that if they keep breaking the rule, this is what happens when you get to like 3 strikes, you're out. They need to know that one. They need to know a heavy correction. And and you train them what to do when you feel a heavy correction. So it's like, they get corrected and they're like, whoa, and then you calm them down. Well, how the hell do I calm them down? Well, I just use a slip lead.
Okay, well, that's good to know because, he's very dramatic.
You can relax them with your hands. So, slip lead up, they start to relax, you bring it down. With a small guy like that, I put them on you don't have to put them on their side. People have trouble with that sometimes. It's the dogs, if they're not used to it. But you can then just kind of, I would put them on their side and don't let them up, even though they want to get up. because they have to relax. So they'll relax, and then I'll kind of just massage their muscles, and then leave them. And then if I lift my hands up and they don't try to get up, if they try to get up, it's right back down. If I lift my hands up off of them and he doesn't try to get up and he's just kind of accepted his fate, then I leave him alone. And we'll let the dust settle. Like, don't go right after another rep right away. Like, give it some time, and then we do it again. Knock, 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 right? I'm looking for a reason to correct, but what you're gonna see is that dog is going to relax so much quicker and so much more than before. And now when they got the heavy correction, they understand, even if you have to do it twice, they understand that it just means just to relax. And there's a lot of intricacies that I can't get into, can't show properly with like spatial pressure to communicate to them that I need you to relax. Because that's the hardest thing to do, is to communicate to them. So I try to use a little bit of their language, you know, by putting them on their sides and stuff. And you can do it to really big dogs too. It's just more and more dangerous, you know? But you don't have to do the side. So if you're not doing the side, it's just simply slip lead up, they relax, put them back down. And,
so you're giving it's okay, like he's really, really barky, whiny at the door, give that higher correction, and then when he freaks out,
yeah, they start to calm down, put them back down, let them breathe, and then direct them, and then do it again. But then this is what I would do the second rep. I go in with a second rep. I'm not going to go in with that heavy number second time. I'm going to go in with, because they're usually really sensitive, I'm not actually going to try to get away with something mild, you know, like if I use a 50 or 60, right, or depending on the dog, or 75 or 100 depending on the dog, the second time around I'm gonna go with like a 15, you know what I mean, just something, or like a 10, just something they barely feel, and then see what they do. And you might see that they're like very respectful to that, and you're like, good, now you know that this, if you listen to this low one, you're good. If you don't, it can go there. So they have to know that, because eventually the owner, they have the ability to hit it at 100, and what happens if they do? Right? Does the dog completely say, what the fuck was that? The thing on recall is like that. I learned this the hard way. A dog got away from me. They don't necessarily know that like a 10 stim means recall, but 100 also means recall, right? Yeah. So it's like you have to teach them what we call high pressure recall, which is they're chasing a deer or some type of setup situation where we can justify a higher number because of the adrenaline.
Still needs to come back.
And not go the other way.
So that I learned the hard way. It's like, recall though, but you never had a 75. So now you're going away from it, and they're barking at the collar and running away from it. So the more you're trying to recall them, the more they're running away from you.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, lesson learned.
Long line.
So you want it, but it has to be justified too, is another thing I learned. You can't just go out there and be like, you're learning high pressure recall, 100, bang. You want to be like, there's a squirrel, they're interested in the squirrel, I'm just going to not say anything. They start to run after the squirrel, there you go. Yeah. Now you can go beep, and the way we do is we do the beep recall so as well. So we'll go beep, they'll hear it. By the end of that 3 seconds, it'll turn to stem, and I'll just make sure it turns to stem at something like a 75 or something. It'll hit something, and I'll dial up until I see the dog like, whoa, and then they'll start to turn around, and then I'll turn it off. And they get it, and then you'll get an awesome experience where you'll see that they'll hopefully, you know, they'll turn around off from a deer with just hearing the beep, no stem, just beep. Oh, here I come. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, we're done with that. Now you understand that, because that's our jobs as trainers. Just make sure they respond appropriately to the system. Now that's not how I live with my personal dogs. You know, I train them up a little bit differently because I want them to listen to me, not my e-collar. But people are buying the e-collar. That's one thing that I had to learn as a early on, was I can't give them all the respect that I cultivate. I can only teach them how to cultivate it, you know? Yeah. So if I could sell them respect, boy, would we be rich. We'd be rich, but we can't. So. Exactly. But it sounds like you're doing everything right. It sounds like you've done your homework. It sounds like you understand the concepts and everything. Yeah. I think you did a wonderful job. And do some of the things that I suggested, and making sure that he understands it fully. And I think that this guy's going to go home, and I don't think they're going to have trouble with him anymore. So
yeah, I'm hoping not.
I think they got what they paid for. So
yeah, and they only live 20 minutes away, so I
perfect.
Once this virus BS is over, then
yeah,
back to school a session in your house or
That's
whatever.
what I would do. I would offer that. We do like a follow-up session that's free. Most people don't use it, but if they were like, okay, listen, everything's going good, but we're still having a little problem with the door, then you just go over there, give that experience to him while he's there. Make sure that he views the owner as giving the correction if you can, and then just be there for them until they don't need you anymore, and they won't because you've already done the heavy lifting here. So yeah.
Alrighty. That sounds good.
I think you did a great job. I think you're ready. I think he's ready to go home whenever they're ready to have him back. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I figured, like, I told them, I told them I wouldn't even charge him for it, but I said all that other week on him, because I want to, you know,
do it.
if I let him go today, I feel like he could revert back pretty darn quick, because
Yeah, you got to get into those stressful. You got a week now, so this is good. So early
they'll succeed, right?
early in the week, you want to push him a little bit, like the first couple of days, like the next couple of days. Push him to the point where he's going to struggle. Find out where do you struggle that we can work on, because that could leave you seeing more shaking again. You know, and we don't want to do that the night before he goes home. We want him to get over that, and then, you know, by the time he goes home, he's pretty much over that with us. Anything that an elephant could walk in the room, he's just like, I don't care. Right? But if we call, a lot of people call this like the messy middle or something like that, but what you're doing is you're looking for, okay, he's doing really well, right? And this is a common thing. They do really well, and then it's like, well, let's keep him doing well for the next couple of weeks and send him home. But what you really want to do is you really want to push him to really see where his line is and see how far you can push it. And where you want to push it is, we're not looking to be unrealistic here. We just want to make sure that he can handle average moments throughout a day at a normal house that currently are setting him off. They don't set him off anymore. And the best way to do that is to make sure that he doesn't react under extreme situations, because then the normal ones are easy. So we want to make sure we put him under more pressure than is necessary, and make sure that he's behaving even though it seems a little unfair. It's like, well, he's got a bowl sliding by his head, dogs are barking, people are, well, how do you expect? It's like, well, if he can do this, he'll be fine if somebody comes and rings on the doorbell. That's what we do. And so that by the time they get home, people are like, holy shit. And it's like, well, you just got somebody knocking on the door. It's not like you have all this going on. And so if you can put him through the ringer for the next couple of days, make sure he's solid, and you're like, okay, he's solid with this. He's fine. He's ready to go home. He's fine. Yeah. So he's already probably ready to go home. But like you said, you don't want his first experience of having to correct firmly because he's super like messing up with the owners. You want that to be with you. Exactly. All right. So he has experience of, oh, when I get correct firmly, all I got to do is lay down. And everything's fine. So just make sure that's with you.
We had an Australian Shepherd at a go home. This dog whined all the time, but somehow, like, Josh was able to get it to where if we hit the red, which was the boost, he curled up into a ball and fell asleep. So at the go home, he's on the place bed whining. I looked at the owner and I said, do me a favor. I don't want you to say anything. Hit the red button. She did. What do you think he did? He curled up and fell asleep.
It's helpful if you can get it to that point.
Josh,
I'm not expecting
that was amazing training.
I'm not expecting to be able to get every dog to that point, but if you can get him to that point, listen, he's on the place bed. I've been calling it in my head contextual e-collar work. So it's like, based on the context, doggy, when you feel this, what are you supposed to do? If you're in heel, it probably doesn't mean recall. If you're in the field 100 yards away from me, it probably does mean recall, right? If you're on the place bed, it probably means this. So I make sure I spend a lot of time teaching them situational stuff with the e-collar. So by the time they go home, all the owner's got to do is really pick that thing up. Because think about how many different situations is a dog really in. You're either walking them, playing with them, they're on the bed. You're not in complex situations, so you just tackle all those situations.
And I see that with him too. Like, it's like the auto sits now. Like, I just stop. He sits.
What else is he gonna do?
What else is he gonna do? It's not place, you know? So it's like understanding that it's very simple, and that teaching the dog to think in context, like, okay, based off the situation, what is this stim telling me to do? And we make sure I train a lot like that, especially towards the end. And then what we see is dogs are, if they have to guess, they're guessing right. So it makes the training even stronger, because the dog sometimes will have to guess because the human's not giving them accurate information, and they'll just base it off the situation. And 9 times out of 10, they get it right, because it's most of the time we either want them to come to us, follow us, or lay down and be quiet. So
Exactly.
they can figure it out. So yeah, just do some of that contextual e-collar work, put him in situations and making sure he's responding appropriately to the stim.
Right.
And I mean, he's going to be ready to go home and start.
Yeah, I think we'll be.
Then they have to do their part, and if they're not doing their part, you have to let it go.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
Sending dogs home after you worked with them.
That's all you can do, though, is say,
Yeah.
I've done the work, here's the video of it, here's what you need to do, call me if you have problems.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing your part, you can't care more than the owner.
Yeah, and you probably just won't hear from them after the first.
That's on them, not
That's on them, man. That's how you burn out. If you're just gonna, hey, how's he doing today? How's he doing today? How's he doing today?
Oh yeah, let them contact you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let them contact you. Yeah, that's important. That's important that before you leave, you're like, hey, listen, you have another session. If you're feeling like you need anything, I'm here for you. And then you let them if you never hear from them ever again, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you probably will. Because you end it also saying, hey, and I'd love to hear updates either way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they'll usually send you a photo or something that day or the next day of him on place with someone coming in. You're going to feel great and everybody's happy.
Well,
So.
I know I've done 2 Great Danes, and the first one I did was pretty nasty, leash reactive towards other dogs.
Ooh.
And had him really nice and calm and whatnot. And then I did their second dog, which was just a puller. And then we were meeting to do a session at PetSmart, and what did they do? They brought the Great Dane. And when I took the Great Dane into the stores, he was nice and calm. And they brought him in, and he's just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing this dog here? Like, you've only had him home for 2 weeks, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Make sure that you're
Realistic expectations.
Yes, and also make sure that the big thing is making sure that those owners are very adequate, very good at state of mind. So they see the error in state of mind. You can explain to them there's 2 parts to each command. Each command has 2 parts. It's your body and it's your mind. And if you're in heel, but you're like this, you're getting corrected. You have to show them what the body language looks like when they're calm versus when they start to climb that scale. And that's just part of like when you're teaching them each command going home, you teach them it without distractions. And you say, this is how you do it. And then they're getting it. And like the dog's doing it, like a recall, for example, the dog's doing it. And now I'm going to have you recall him, but I'm going to put a distraction over here so you can see him make a mistake so I can show you what it looks like, so I can show you what to do. And so with heel, it's the same thing. We are very strict with heel, as you probably know. So we teach them how to do heel, and then we'll put a distraction in, like somebody standing across the way with a dog or a squeaky ball, and it'll throw the ears up, it'll puff the chest out, and we'll say right there. And they'll see that conversation, and they'll have experience with it. So now when we see them out, and we see that Great Dane doing this, before we even go in the store, be like, you know what he's going to do in there now, because you're letting him walk around like this. Especially if he's walking around with his chest out.
It's just them not doing the work, because they messaged me a couple weeks ago when I trained that dog months ago and said he was barking in the crate at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, what's the rest of the day look like? Well, we haven't done much of anything with them.
Yeah.
I would have suggested a bark collar. Bark collar overnight.
Yeah, you're right though.
And then as soon as they both, weren't working, and now they're home doing all the work, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, he's really good now.
That's just how it works. As the amount that you put in is what you get, right? So you put 25% in, he's gonna be 25% good, which doesn't look very good. So basically, that's all you can do. And plus, once your price goes up, your clients change, they become more invested. I don't know what your price is at, but if your price was up there, you're gonna see less, in our experience, less casual clients and more committed clients. And so, because the casual ones will burn you out because they don't really care as much as you do, but at the same time, they do want the results, and they're like, is it the training? And it's like, no, it's not the training. It's the consistency. So be patient. You said you're in the beginning of this, you're doing really good. As time goes on, your reputation will grow, your price will go up, and people will take you more seriously and the whole thing. But in the beginning, it's like you're gonna have stuff. I had people that didn't pay me. They were just like, just not paying you. Okay. People leave their dog at my house and just never come get it. You do it with all sorts of stuff, doing in-homes and like trailers and shit. Like, you just got to get your experience, right? So, but eventually you get to that point where you can raise your prices, and the client, I swear to God, your clients will change. They change.
Well, this is only my 7th dog, including the first dog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're right in the beginning. It's good. You're doing really well. You got a really good start, seriously good start for your 7th dog. So keep going. There's definitely going to be some things that are probably going to come your way that you're going to have questions. Let us know if you need anything.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I would recommend eventually getting out and shadowing somebody who you respect. Eventually, you don't have to do it this year or anything, no rush, but eventually just go see how everyone's doing, because what's going to happen is you're going to be like, you're going to notice that it's nothing much different than what you're already doing, and it gives you confidence, and then your price goes up and everything. But for year one, I mean, 7 dogs in, you're in a really good place. Just keep it going.
Good,
Keep
thanks.
it going. Yeah.